You already know what it is. I'm looking in the camera. Like, share, subscribe. Run that beautiful intro footage there, sir.
That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left, feet left.
What the hell was that?
Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It's another week of Birds of a Feather on A2D Radio, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. Our doc, Paul Vidal. We find him at Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. It's your boy Chucks. It's your boy to my this way, Jeff. What's good, man? What's good? I always have to do opposite way. And down there below us, we got Mr. Pete Evans. What's good?
What's up, people? Another Thursday night in paradise. It's a human buggy one, but we here. Could be anywhere else.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are coming at you as usual all over the internet. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We're on Apple Podcasts too. We're on Switcher. We're on Twitch. Find us all over the place. And we are brought to you by Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox. We all deal with mental health and addiction issues. So if you need therapy or detox, please call 856-651-8117. Tell them that Tom from A2D sent you. Our poll question today, which is brought to you by Body Check Wellness. Use the promo code A2D for 20% off. Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Agree or disagree? We want you guys to answer this poll. We are doing wide receiver and tight end rankings tonight. We only got 1 hour, but we got a jam-packed show. We're going to do both rankings. We're also going to talk about Chris Sims' finalized top 40 QB rankings list. That's sure to be really, really interesting. Some of our opinions, I know we got a lot to talk about. We already touched on Jalen Hurts not being in the top 40. We're gonna give our thoughts on the rest of the rankings. So, without further ado, we also got some other stuff, other sponsors I want to touch on real quick. We also have Manscaped. It's not too late, guys. Use the promo code A2D to get your 20% off. And also, I wanted to mention a special show this Saturday night, 10:30 Eastern. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on In This Very Ring. Your boy Pete and your boy Chucks, we will be doing a special Star Wars roundtable discussion episode with the guys over there. Jake will be joining us as well. So if you're a Star Wars geek, I don't know how many of you guys are out there, but I'm a huge Star Wars geek. I've got a lot to say. It's going to be a fired up show on Saturday night. So if you are up late Saturday night, you got nothing to do, you want to geek it out with us, definitely join in 10:30 p.m. this Saturday night. But let's get back to football and let's dive right in before we run out of time. So, wide receiver rankings. I know that Pete, you usually do yours on the fly.
Yep.
I did 2 tiers, roughly.
Of course.
It was tough. Like with wide receivers, it's really tough because like there's so many different types of like shapes and molds of what you want, and like I'm looking at like towards the bottom of my second tier, and I'm like, would I put them in tier 3? I'm looking at some guys I have in my tier 3. I'm like, should I put them in tier 2? Like I don't know. So my list is really rough. Like I couldn't mix a bunch of the guys up there, but pretty much I have 2 tiers of 11 wide receivers. So I have about 11. Jeff, how many you got?
I only did top 10.
Top 10. Okay, good. Pete, do you have any sort of a semblance of a list going on right now?
Oh yeah, I know who my top 10 are.
Okay, good. All right, that's fine. We'll stick around then, and then at the end of it, or we'll also mention some honorable mentions, some guys that just missed the cut because I know it gets really close. Like you can make arguments for a bunch of guys on there. So we're going to get right into wide receivers, and then once we're done that, we'll go into tight ends. But I want to get into the some of the comments first before we start. We've got David Zaleski. He says he disagrees. He says Adams is the best. Another good name to put up there. We've got Jay Koch says, I agree. Hill is too fast for anybody to cover. Betty's Nation says, agree. You can line him up anywhere. Brian Wilson, he says, disagree to the poll. Top 5, though. If you're saying top 5, I think that's way too low. I think you got to say top 3 there, Wilson. Top 5 is a little stretching it. In my opinion, you'll see where we have him ranked. Crew Love 3381 says Tyreek is great, but I think Devontae Adams is the best receiver. I'll take the volume receiver over the big play guy. And that's, like I said, it's a matter of preference sometimes with these. Like, do you prefer the big play? Do you prefer the possession guy? That's what it might come down to with some of these rankings. Daly says disagree to the poll. Devontae Adams is the best. Povia says Rob Povia says disagree. Devontae number 1, but he's a stud. He certainly is. So I mean, like you can't. I don't think any of those comments are unfair. I honestly don't think. I don't think so. And people will have their preference, but we'll see what we got. So let's start. Let's do this in sections. Let's do roughly like 10 to 8. All right. So we'll get our first three or 4 guys that we got, because I got 11, so I'll name 4. But you guys name your 10 to 8. Jeff, let's start with you. Who do you have at 10, 9, and 8?
Hello?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, we're here.
Sorry, I don't know if it's my internet or something, but you were like freezing and going in and out, so I apologize for the delay.
No, you're good. You're good. So, yeah, go. Who's your 10, 9, and 8?
You said 10 through 8?
Yeah, 10 through 8.
So for wide receivers at number 10, I have Mike Evans. Number 9, I have Justin Jefferson. And then number 8, I have A.J. Brown.
Pete, what do you got?
All right, so at 10, I also have Mike Evans.
Okay.
All right. 9, I actually have Adam Thielen at 9. 8, I have Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm doing 11 and 8 because it's the bottom of my second tier. 11, I have Keenan Allen. 10, I've got Michael Thomas. 9, I have Justin Jefferson, and 8, I got AJ Brown. So Jeff, me and you, we pretty much match. We pretty much are on par with 9 and 8. Who was your 10 again? You said
mine was Evans.
Evans. And where did you put Evans, Pete?
10.
At 10. Okay. Evans just missed my cut. He was the one guy that's like, after looking at it, I kind of wanted to throw him in there, but I just left him out. But he's like right on that cusp for me. So I don't think anything, our rankings so far are pretty much on point. I think it's all fair. So Pete, let's go with you. Let's move on since we all we're all in agreement there. Unless you guys, is there one player you want to comment on in terms of, why they're ranked where they are for your 10 to 8?
Well, I think for me, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, they coincide with each other. I mean, Thielen has really he's benefited really from having a counterpart to where he can still see favorable matchups. So he's reliable. Like it was tough for me I wanted to put Thielen 10 and Mike Evans 9, but I kind of flip-flopped him. Was just what Evans now is for the last couple of seasons. He's kind of been pretty banged up a little bit. But he still gives it to you when he gives it to you. And Thielen does the same thing. But I just think Justin Jefferson, and you'll see this through the rest of my rankings. When I look at the wide receiver position and through my viewpoint, I won't go into detail because my rankings will speak for themselves. But I think Jefferson just gives a little bit more at this point than Thielen. But it could be because the legs are younger. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Jeff, how about you? Name one guy out of that 10, 9, and 8 that you want to touch on.
Since he touched on Justin Jefferson, I'll go Mike Evans. Look,
okay.
I know he's a guy that sometimes disappears, and you for a period of time you don't know if you consider him the number 1 or if it's Godwin or whoever. But look, I would say he's still a big play threat in that offense. He has Tom Brady, and with Gronk at tight end position, I would say there's he opens things up. So I know some people like yourself don't consider him, or you have a little bit on the outside as number 10. I'm just feeling when I'm going to my ratings and rankings for 2021, I do factor in the quarterback position. I factor in the players around him and all that. So I do feel that Mike Evans, even though you feel that he's outside the top 10, this season with that supporting cast and with Tom Brady at the helm, I feel he's still going to have a top 10, maybe a top 8 season for a wide receiver.
See, that's interesting because you approach it more of as is like you take everything into account, whereas myself and correct me if I'm wrong, Pete. I think we do it similar with each other, where I'm ranking them based on their own talent alone. So you could take. I'm saying like if you put these players, and this is not just the wide receivers. This is like how we running backs and quarterback. Like you put this player on another team, how good would they be? Like that's how I'm approaching it. And you're not approaching it wrong, because like I said when we first started doing this, like approach it however you want, have whatever criteria you want, whatever circumstances or things you want to put in there. So I don't blame you. And if you're throwing it in that caveat in terms of the system around him, the quarterback is throwing it to him, then I definitely understand why you would put Mike Evans there. And I'm someone who I have always had Evans around that top 10. I've always felt like he was never talked about enough, and he's been one of the better wide receivers in the league. I don't know if I'd ever put him in as like a top tier guy, but he's definitely in that second tier conversation all the time. And like I said, I was battling myself not putting him in this conversation. Maybe I should, as we talk about it, maybe I should, but I put Keenan Allen on there because I feel like Keenan Allen, and I agree on Justin Jefferson. Everything Pete said, I agree. Like Justin Jefferson is going to be a stud. He could be tier 1 by the end of this time next year. But when it comes to, I want to touch on Keenan Allen real quick. Like people, just because he's not athletic, people like overlook him. But he's one of the best route runners in the game, and he's productive and consistent. And then also Michael Thomas. Not too long ago, people were putting him as the best wide receiver in the game. Look how fast things change. Pete, me and you were two of the people that were never that high on Michael Thomas because of reasons that like his game all around isn't as complete as some of these other wide receivers. And he had the benefit of Drew Brees in terms of people call him slant God for a reason. Like he's running slant all the time. And it's not to say that he isn't talented, but down year, you got to show him. And now moving forward without Drew Brees, you got to show me that your talent's going to rise above that. So Michael Thomas, I've always looked at as a little bit overrated. People thought he was the best wide receiver in the game. I never agreed with that. And now he's dropped to 10 because I want to see how he does moving forward. And that injury didn't help. So, all right. So moving on to 7 and 6. Let's keep 7 and 6. Pete, you go first.
So at 7, I have A.J. Brown. That's why I have A.J. Brown at 7. 6, this may shock some people. I'm going Allen Robinson at 6. Reliable. If you look at his skill set, he catches damn near everything. He does it. His route running he does everything well. It's very well rounded, and he's consistent. He does it. He's not catching A1 passes. I can tell you that when you look at the quarterbacks he plays with in Chicago, but yet he puts up numbers. So I definitely think that may shock some people. But Allen Robinson is in my top 10.
All right, I'm gonna go next. I'll do 7 and 6. It's funny you say that because 7 is Allen Robinson. 7 is Allen Robinson. He's another guy who's often overlooked because he never has great quarterbacks throwing to him. But this guy is big, and he runs routes like he's a small receiver. And it's time. I've even overlooked him in the past. It's time I stopped. When I look at his game, I'm like, this guy is a stud.
Yeah.
So I don't have any qualms putting him at 7. I think that's pretty much right around where he should be. And then 6, I want to have him higher, but I need to see more consistency. I have DK Metcalf at 6. So he just barely, like, I was considering him for tier 1, but like I said, I need to see more consistency. But man, he's one of those, like, he dominates games, and when he dominates, like, he dominates people. So that's why I was considering him for tier 1. So, you know, and you'll see with my 5 is also a fringe tier 1 guy. So these guys are at the top of my tier 2, and it's DK is just a beast. Like, he's insane. Another guy, along with Justin Jefferson, a lot of Eagles fans will argue should be an Eagle, but I hate to bring that up. Jeff, who's your 7 and 6?
Say who shouldn't be an Eagle at this point, but number 7, I have Michael Thomas. Look, I would say I agree with you. I feel some people somewhat have him a little bit overrated, but I still feel with the talent. And if you're going to use the same argument for Allen Robinson about not having a quarterback this year, we don't know who's going to be throwing the football to Michael Thomas, whether it's going to be Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, which, in my opinion, both of them are pretty bad quarterbacks. So Michael Thomas, from a fantasy standpoint, his numbers might dip a little bit. So if you're having your fantasy draft in a couple weeks, don't take Thomas way too highly, especially from the quarterback play that they possibly have there with the Saints. And then at number 6, I would say it might be a little bit too low for some people, but in my opinion, I have Julio Jones. Getting up there in age, look, he's still a consistent wide receiver, but in my opinion, compared to the rest of the wide receivers that we're going to be talking about on this list, I don't feel he's the complete wide receiver. He's that wide receiver when he's non-existent in the red zone. And we hear about his play every single year but I'll say he's a big play threat between the 20s. But once you get inside that red zone, because of his size, defenses find a way to take him out of the game. And he just doesn't get those targets. He doesn't get those catches. And as we know with Jalen Mills shutting him down in the playoff game, the seal of the victory for the Eagles. So he comes up a little bit short, in my opinion, in certain big game situations like that. But he's definitely a speedy wide receiver that can stretch the field pretty well for offenses.
Pete, you're like, we can't hear you.
That's the greatest compliment Jalen Mills has ever received.
Yeah, it is.
That's the tape he showed New England to get that 4-year deal, bitch. That's the tape he showed New England.
Julio Jones had some major catches, plays before that too, and it's funny because it's just that one play, and that's
red
what
zone
remembers. Of
came up short.
Of course. And you know what is also really funny is that on that play, he had him in his hip pocket, but that jump ball, if it was a little bit more accurate, Julio could have come down with that. Mills didn't really jump for it. Mills jumped like in 2 inches off the ground and didn't really make a good play on the ball. So if that was a more accurate pass, Julio could have come down with it. Mills didn't make a good play, but on the ball, that's what I'm saying. But like, he did have him in his hip pocket. He did a good job sticking with him and keeping him tight to that sideline. So that part was good. I just always thought it was funny how Mills never really made a good jump play for that ball. So before we get into top 5, all right, let's go through some other comments. We got some really interesting ones here. I want to read this one because I think this is highly offensive. Highly, highly offensive. And I can't wait to cover it. And once we get through Tyreek Hill. Well, we got Brandon Flowers say Tyreek Hill. Well, first spell his name. That's super offensive.
He could be doing that on purpose.
My God. Tyreek Hill is a glorified slot receiver. He's as good as the system. That is one of the most bogus things I've ever seen someone say about Tyreek Hill.
I'll take Tyreek Hill any freaking day.
Especially with this offense. So bad. Like, I've been respectful for a lot of the comments, and I don't mind people not having Hill as number 1 and Devontae Adams. We can agree to disagree, and it's a good conversation to have. But to say he's a glorified slot receiver and only as good as a system, that's ridiculous. That's a really bad take. That's a really bad take. I don't know what you guys think. I don't want to give away too much, but just off of that comment alone, do you agree?
I don't agree with the glorified part, but I see his thinking. When you have that much speed on the field, like we talked about, me and Chucks, we don't. And to answer a question from Ali Mall, one of our members here on the A2D, and if you're not a member, go ahead and jump in with the fam. Matter of fact, look, the Money Pop picks on Sunday, we got them. If you're a member only, you got your special video and won me a couple $. So if You're trying to put some money back in your pocket during these seasons, during this time. Now's the time, but you got to get that $9.99, the best $9.99 that you'll spend. But as we talked about before, Chucks, when we look at the wide receiver position, this goes to Molly Mall's question. When he asked, are we ranking wide receivers on teams or just individually? We rank them individually. That's how I take a look at it, is individually. So I think Tyreek Hill in any offense, no matter what the system is in the league, is going to make it easier for himself and also make it easier for the guys around him. It just so happens that he's playing with the best quarterback in the game, arguably the best wide receiver in the game, and a head coach who's been 20 years in, who's finally learned to get out of his own way and let talent do what it does. So, but I can see his point. It's a very extreme side of that way of thinking, and maybe that's where Mr. Flowers just lands at. But I don't agree with that wholeheartedly, not one bit.
Jeff.
Yeah, I don't agree to his comment. Look, and to say that he's a slot receiver, they put him all over the freaking place. They put him in the backfield. They put him on the outside. They put him in the slot, and he still finds ways to burn opposing defenders. So the fact that you're saying he's a glorified slot receiver and he's going up against some of the best cornerbacks in the game, and the fact that opposing defenses are literally focusing on how to shut down Tyreek Hill, which opens things up for the rest of that offense, that's complete disrespect, because the rest of the league respects Tyreek Hill's ability for them to get burned on a daily basis.
Yes, preach. All right, I'm glad we're all in agreement there. Benny the Nation says, I think I might put Hopkins above Adams. Outside of a couple of years with Watson, he hasn't had pure passer throwing the ball to him. Hopkins is definitely someone that I think, well, based on your list so far, I'm pretty sure we all have him in top 5. So Hopkins deserves some love. Povia says A.J. Brown could be top 5 on the team who throws more, commands such a target.
Just wait. Yeah. Just wait.
Yeah.
just wait.
Yeah. We'll see how I was never that high on A.J. Brown, but he's proven me wrong. And so like he's doing a lot better than I thought he would. I thought he would just be like a great slot receiver, but he's more than that. He's really, really he's a stud. Daly says, my only concern with AJ now is having Julio. It's either going to help open him up more, or it's going to hurt him. I think if you're looking for that's like that conversation always goes one or two ways. Whenever a wide receiver gets another great player across from him, you know, people always bring up like that's going to hurt his value. Like if you're worried about fantasy and stats, okay, maybe, but in terms of just the player in real life football, it's just going to help him. Because the attention can't go.
I don't know any number 2 that Julio's had that didn't benefit from being on the field with Julio. I mean, Muhammad Sanu got contracts out of it. Calvin Ridley played so well that they trade. I wouldn't say they traded him they traded him on the benefit for Ridley for Julio, but that I won't say they chose him. But I mean, Julio is just another cat. Like he's just. The only thing that I think that's going to put him any lower on our list is just because he's getting older. That's it.
Yeah.
But if all things were equal and he was the same age as Tyreek Hill, I mean, this conversation wouldn't even be close.
Yeah, not close. Yeah,
wouldn't even be close.
Yep. Vespi says, "Evening guys, dropping in. Reek is still a top receiver. Where do you rank the Eagles wide receiver core?" I'll just say it here: it's nowhere near the top, and we just got to hope and pray Devontae Smith is the saving grace for this wide receiver core, because our wide receiver core was one of the worst, if not the worst, in the league last year. Yeah. So, got to hope a better wide receiver one and a better coach will do. Tom says to the poll, I'm going to disagree. Greg Milakovic says I disagree to the poll, but he's up there, but not number 1. Tom, he puts Hopkins as the best. Still, I know a lot of people, had Hopkins last year as the best, and it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if any of us still have him there. Benny's Nation says Michael Thomas can only run 2 routes. Is he lying?
No.
Daly says Keenan is a stud. He has injury issues when he's on the field. You can absolutely argue top 10 wide receiver. Tom says Michael Thomas is good, but not top 5. Yeah. I mean, I just want to say, I just want to reiterate again, I was getting slammed years ago when I said Michael Thomas isn't like the best wide receiver in the league. I was getting crucified. I just want to point
It
that out.
also helped when you had a future Hall of Fame quarterback with Drew Brees still in the football.
See, and that's where I'm going to go. If anybody knows and they track back, and I know our fam here, we'll probably have some archive footage. I got to talk to Tom about that to see if you can start putting up some of this archive footage when we actually should do these shows in person. When it comes to the Saints offense and the success, it ain't got nothing to do with them damn players on the field, bro. It does not. It goes all to Sean Payton. Listen, Chucks, I think
I won't say all. I won't say all. Like they get
Breeze
credit. They get credit.
See, and that's where like me, I can't speak for myself, but I think Chucks is aligned with me as well. Breeze is overrated.
Yes.
Breeze is over. He's overrated. He's still
He's a great quarterback. He's a great one of the best ever. But people talk about him like he's a top 5 quarterback of all time. Sorry, this is a tangent, but me and Pete always mention this. We're the only ones that agree on this. Like I feel like
I wouldn't say top 5, but he's still a future Hall of Famer. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I mean the numbers speak for themselves, but the other number is he has one ring, one.
And people
more than Dan Marino.
Lick. Goddamn. Look at the conversation and the narrative between Drew Brees and the attention and love he gets, and Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, I love Aaron
Rodgers. One ring. Both have one ring. Who has been surrounded by the better team?
And coach. Consistent.
Okay. So
better indoor home field advantage.
He gets all this love, and he has one ring. Again, he is a future Hall of Famer. I'd say he's a top 10 quarterback of all time.
Right.
But people talk about him like he's in the top 5. It's not. But that's tangent. And like me and Pete.
Let's get it back to the top 5. Let's get it back to the top 5.
Top 5. So just to blaze through the rest of these comments. Molly Mall, this is the question that we did answer. Yes, it's me and Pete are ranking them individually while Jeff is ranking them based on their teams. I think so. You're getting a little bit of both. Tom says AJ's a pimp. Daly says A-Rob is a top 10 wide receiver. It's not that crazy. Trying to scroll through this. John Castiglione, how impressed are you with Stephon Diggs? He had a great first year in Buffalo. I am going to get to that. We're going to get to that. God, yes. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's anywhere else. Yeah, I think Breakman says Hill is the best in the biz. And then Howie P., Amari Cooper, top 5. Brandon Flowers says it's the system. Yo, Flowers, you got to watch some football.
He has another comment in there. He said he responded to after we addressed his question. It's a couple down.
Couple down. Okay. Brandon Flowers. He's very good, but come on, guys. He and Julio Hopkins or even the Steve Smith. We will answer all this Tyreek hate that Flowers is putting out there. We'll answer when we get to it because
does he even know that Steve Smith's staying in the freaking league anymore?
So, all right, let's get to the top 5. Pete, we'll start with you. Who's your 5 and 4?
So 5, we have Julio Jones. Okay. 4, and this kind of goes to how I look at the wide receiver position, and it's looking at it complete. Now, I'm not looking at who's elite at a certain trait, but number 4 for me is Tyreek Hill. 4.
Okay. Jeff, sorry, I didn't
know if you were going to say something or elaborate.
No, that's fine. Sorry.
Number 5, I have Stephon Diggs, and then number 4, I have DK Metcalf.
Okay. I don't think that's bad. All right, so Pete, I will ask this before we start moving on. With Tyreek Hill, would you say he's a tier 1 wide receiver?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah.
All right, good. My 5 is Julio. So I think me and Pete, we agree on that.
Yep.
4, I was tossing this up between 4 and 3. This was a toss up, but 4 is the beginning of my tier 1. So they're all from 1 to 4. That's all just the same thing to me. 4, I have DeAndre Hopkins, and it pains me to put him this low.
Okay.
Because I've loved DeAndre Hopkins since he came into the league. I like the other three more right now. So again, I could have put him at 2 or 3
Right.
if I wanted to, but he's at 4. To start off my tier 1. Let's move on. Let's all state the rest of this. So let's all go 3 and 3, and then we'll all state our 2, and then we'll all state our 1. So who do you have at number 3, Jeff?
So number 3, I have Tyreek Hill.
Okay. And
2.
then no, stop.
Oh, we're
Go
just doing 3. Okay.
Yeah.
3.
Who's your 3?
My 3, man, and I also want to say this: DK or Michael Thomas is not in my top 10 at all. Like, neither one of them.
At all. DK's
At
no
all.
at all. Okay.
At all.
Oh, if we had more time, man. If we had more time, I would say.
Number 3, man. I'm gonna have to do it, man, because I love the other 2 just so much. I just like them more. Number 3 for me is Newt. I'm putting Hopkins 3.
Okay.
I'm putting Hopkins 3.
So you had Hill at 4, Hopkins at 3. Okay.
Yeah.
3 for me. I wanted to put him at 2 so bad, but I didn't. Is Stephon Diggs. I love me some Stephon Diggs. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to say my 2, and then we'll go around because I want us to complete the list and then start arguing and debating. But so number 2 for me then was Devontae Adams. I couldn't – the production was too good, and he's way too good right now for me to not put him ahead of Diggs. So I have him at 2. Pete, who do you have at 2?
I have Stephon Diggs at 2. I think in
2.
Buffalo, he did it. He not only did he take a step up more from what he did in Minnesota, he did it and didn't have a counterpart wide receiver that made his job or his life easier. You know what I mean? His Robin wasn't Adam Thielen's level. You know what I mean? It was more of a system. It was more of a committee. But he still had to be Batman when it came to the wide receiver position. And not only did Buffalo get their initial return on investment, I think he's going to get even better. And he can when he can do it all. He can do slants. Call him the slant guy. He can then do a turnaround, and then he can also beat you over the top. He can do it all, and that well-versed and that well-roundedness. I think because I hate to say it with DeAndre, while he's great, best hands, maybe the best hands ever. We seen that catch that he had against Buffalo to win the game through that traffic. But at the same time, I don't think Nuke has that speed and that extra gear that Diggs and then my number 1 wide receiver overall has. So that's why for me and what I look for, that's why I put him at number 3 compared to Diggs at number 2, who I think, like I said, I think at some point when we look at DeAndre and we look at Julio, they may start like Julio's maybe on the downside. He's coming down the hill. Where we still, I think that Nuke he's not ascending anymore. I don't know how much better DeAndre can get. I think he's kind of sitting at that precipice at the top to where I think Diggs is that. If you ever look at that Price is Right game, when they do the yodeling dude and the yodeling dude is just going up and up and up and up and up. You know what I mean? I think that's where we're at with Diggs. It's beautiful. It's beautiful that he's doing it with Josh Allen. And if Josh Allen takes another step, I think Diggs takes another step. Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at. So when John Castellone asked where we were at on Diggs, I didn't know I would be higher on him than you. But yeah, it's just tough for me. Not like when I'm looking going into the season, I'm excited to see what Diggs can do.
To your last comment before I get to you, Jeff, you're surprised you're higher on Diggs than I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm higher on a certain someone than you are right now, which is surprising because I don't agree. But it'll be a good discussion. Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. But Jeff, who's your number 1? Number 2, sorry.
Number 2, I have DeAndre Hopkins.
I can't argue against that either. Hopkins is done. All right, so I'm gonna go Pete, Jeff, and then myself. Go with your number 1. So Pete,
Devontae, man. Devontae. I mean, hands, route, speed. I mean, he does what Diggs does just at the route running position better with hands. And he does it. Don't get me wrong. And it's going to kind of address. We got another question from John Castellone asking if Rodgers doesn't play for Green Bay, how far does Adams fall on your list? Once again, we're looking at them as individual players. That's how I look at them. And Adams has done this with no one at number 2. No, there's been nothing. There's been no one consistent as the number 2 wide receiver in Green Bay. You know where the ball is going, and they have such good chemistry. That's the one thing I would say with Rodgers and Adams. They have such good chemistry to where he knows the back shoulder fade is coming. But we've seen Adams get 50, 60-yard touchdowns, whether it be over the slant, whether it be on a go route, whether it be on a deep post. And then we see them eat up people for 8-yard gains from a 3rd and 7. And he always draws the best corners on the other team. So, and he's been doing this for years. It's just now that he's really starting to hit that echelon. And for me, he's the most well-rounded, well-versed wide receiver, joker of all trades at that position in the league. For me.
Jeff, who's your number 1?
Yeah, I agree with P. It's Davante Adams right now. The dude is a playmaker, and he can take it the distance on any single play. He's a threat on any time he steps on that football field. So I feel overall he's the more complete wide receiver in the NFL right now, like Pete addressed, and the numbers prove it. Last year he led the league with 18 touchdowns as a wide receiver. So. He's only 28 years old. I feel he's in the prime of his career. He's just going to get better. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the quarterback position, whether Rodgers leaves or not, which I feel even with Jordan Love out there starting at quarterback possibly, if A-Rod goes, Davante Adams is going to make him look like a superstar too, because Davante is that much of a stud. And I understand people can debate, and we'll debate also on who we feel number 1 is, but Davante Adams, you don't have him in your top 3 at least, maybe top 2. You don't know football.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna say my number 1, and then I'm gonna get into some rants here. Okay. So I have a lot to say on my chest. I've been saving. So number 1 for me, and to the poll question, to answer it now, I agree, and I'm the only one that agrees to the poll. Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the game. I'll get back to why, but number 3, my number 3, Stephon Diggs. I want to touch on him real quick. Because I have been pounding the table for this guy since he was in Minnesota. Everyone wanted to talk about Adam Thielen because Adam Thielen was getting all the stats and everything like that. But if you watch football and you paid attention to what Diggs was doing as the outside receiver across from him, he was the one taking all the attention off the top of the defense. He was the one that was getting all these tough yards over the top, running all his routes. He has always been one of the best or the best route runner in the league. He just never got the attention because Thielen was getting all the stats. He goes over, and I wanted the Eagles to trade for him, by the way. He goes over to Buffalo, finally gets a quarterback with a big arm, and look what he does. Stephon Diggs has always been a stud. He is a complete wide receiver who is not only a deep threat, but he runs all the routes at a high level, and he has great hands. Davante Adams, I have ahead of him for a lot of the reasons that you stated. Mm-hmm. I will disagree on one thing. He is not the athlete that Stephon Diggs is. He has speed, but he doesn't have that breakaway speed that Stephon Diggs has. No. That's one of the differences. But what Adams does have, I think, is more savvy. He is more savvy than Stephon Diggs, and he's better off the release, and he has better hands. I think that's what separates, I think, in my opinion, and that's why he wouldn't drop on my list right now, even if he didn't have Aaron Rodgers. In a vacuum, just looking at the player alone, he is number 2, and he deserves to be number 2. Mm-hmm. The reason why I don't have him number 1, and I have Tyreek Hill number 1, is because there is no wide receiver right now that is as dangerous as Tyreek Hill. Defenses do so much to stop him, and oftentimes they cannot stop him. He is the fastest wide receiver I have ever seen, and he could be the fastest wide receiver, the fastest weapon we've seen on offense in the history of the league. His speed, there's fast, there's elite speed, there's great speed, and then there's Tyreek Hill speed. I've never seen anything like that in the game of football. He is an animal. And before anyone, because I know people are going to talk about it, oh, he didn't do well in the Super Bowl. You know how much attention the Bucs put on him to stop him? And you know why? Because earlier in the regular season meeting, Tyreek Hill torched them for 200 plus yards, and they knew they couldn't let that happen again. So they put so much attention over the top,
Yeah.
and that's why Kelsey was going off. So try putting, that's the thing. When you have a guy that's demanding this much attention, but that people want to look at the stats, that's my problem a lot with a lot of these people that watch football. They don't watch the game. They look at the box score. They look at stats and say, Hill didn't have a good Super Bowl. He didn't have a good Super Bowl because he's getting triple teamed. He was getting shake coverage over the top every single play. Yeah. So what other type of player is demanding that kind of attention? Not a lot. So Tyreek Hill has been decimating defenses since he came into the league.
And he was a running back, not a wide receiver. Many people forget that.
All over the field. Jeff pointed this out. He's not only a deep threat, he is a lethal weapon in the backfield as a running back. He is lethal on screens. He is a better route runner than people give him credit for. Go watch him run intermediate routes and see who can keep up with him. Not a lot of people. Not a lot of people. And I did a study on him before the Super Bowl. And if you want to go to my YouTube channel, it's there. The evidence is there. He is more complete than people give him credit for because people automatically assume he's just a deep threat when he's not. He is not. He's just not. And if you don't, I don't mind if people don't have him at number 1, as long as you have him in that top tier. I don't care if they have him at 2. I don't care if they have him at 3. I don't care if they have him at 4. But if as long as you not acknowledge that he's in that same tier as Devontae and anyone else you want to put at the top, as long as he gets that respect, that's completely fine. But he has too many people still talk about him like he doesn't belong in that top tier. A lot like Brandon Flowers said. And that's a huge problem with me. Go ask any defensive coordinator, any defensive player when they face the Chiefs and who their number 1 weapon that they're trying to stop is. And I guarantee you, all of them are going to say Tyreek Hill. I guarantee you. Guarantee you. So that's why, to me, he's number 1 because he's the primary focus of every single defense. So all the Tyreek Hill disrespect that we get or that he gets, I'm not here for it. Yeah. You got to give him a respect. He's more than just a one-trick pony, and he's proven that since he came into the league.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. And those people in the comments, like you said, that brought about that Super Bowl in his performance. You can't put that on him. The people to blame for the Chiefs losing that Super Bowl was that offensive line. Because if Patrick Mahomes was given the time to throw the football, Tyreek's numbers would be a lot better. So you can't put on Tyreek for his lack of production in that game. For them losing. You have to blame on the offensive line and Andy Reid not adjusting that game to make sure Tyreek got the ball somehow.
Yep.
I don't know, Pete, if you have and then he goes rock, paper, scissors. I know Omar is here. He's trying to bust my balls, after picking Rager. I don't listen to Chucks. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to me. That's perfectly fine. But
listen to me though. Listen to me though. I appreciate you staying here.
No, before you go, you can bust my balls over Rager. That's fine. I already admitted I was wrong about Rager, but he talks about he's like, why don't you pick Justin Jefferson? Go back to my grades from that year. I had the same grade on Justin Jefferson. I had a first-round pick. So it was never about me being low on Justin Jefferson, who I have ranked in my top 10 right now. And I just said at the top of the show, he could be tier 1 wide receiver as we move forward. Well, I was wrong about Jalen Reagor. That's who I was wrong about. But I if you think I'm wrong about Tyreek Hill, I dare you to go talk to other people who know football. So talk to them, ask them about Tyreek Hill.
I'm saying for you to say that you're wrong about Jalen Reagor after one season is complete asinine. Look, the jury is still out on Jalen Reagor. Yeah, he did not live up to the rookie season that we hoped him to have last year as a first-round pick. But let's be honest, no one on this team played well. No one on this team performed like we expected him to. We expected Carson Wentz to be an all-pro quarterback to lead us to a playoff and hopefully a Super Bowl run with this team. That didn't happen. Look, Rager right now might not look like the best pick on paper right now, but give the dude a chance before you sell him out after one season, especially now with a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new system, and a fresh start. So let's get off the whole Jalen Rager BS before we give the dude at least a couple seasons.
And Benny agrees with you. He says way too early back on Rager. And I will still say I was wrong before. I know Pete, you had something to comment for the Hill thing. But I will still say I was wrong on Rager because I thought he would be pro ready. I was dead wrong. I still think his ceiling is high, but he has a lot to learn, more than I thought he would. So that's what I was dead wrong about Rager. And I've been wrong about a bunch of things. But when it comes to Tyreek Hill, the proof is in the film. Like, watch the games, and he's not. You can
all
see
the experts.
The experts. So, Pia, what were you gonna say?
No, I mean, I was just going to tell Omar, like, listen, if he wants to tune you out, that's fine, but don't tune me out. You know what I mean? Still rock and stay here with us. We appreciate you. But no, everything you guys are saying is correct. And with the Jalen Rager thing, it's between here.
Yeah.
If you look at Jefferson on tape and the skill set, and you look at Rager's skill set at its best, the skill sets are not that far apart. They're different, but they're not that far apart. It's just that one player had the mentality and put it on tape and has his numbers to prove it. And for Rager, it's just taking a little bit longer to get adjusted. I mean, Omar does say he's messing with you for fun. I will say this, fam: it is very easy to pick Chuck's buttons. We'll see in a couple weeks.
No, it's always fun. And you know what? Like, I've learned to kind of take it in stride, and so it's always fun when people get on me, and because like I don't have a response other than like, hey, I was wrong. Like I was dead wrong. Like I really was, and it's I know, Omar, it's all love. I get it, and you disagreeing with me is the reason why we have a show.
Yeah,
so I love 100%. It's different between you and what Brandon Flowers put out and disrespecting Tyreek Hill. It's the disrespect that gets me like really fired up, because people talk about him like he's just like a regular guy, and he's not. Do you
think people may have that view because of what he does what he's done off the field?
I think that definitely plays a part. So they have a bias where they don't want to give him that credit for being that great of a player because they don't want to root for him. They don't want to give him that. I know I've seen it. I know for a fact I've seen it from two guys on social media that they don't want to give the Hill that credit. And I am not an advocate for Hill the person, but I'm just talking about on the field as a football player. Yeah. And what I see on the football field is what I see on the football field. Okay. Anything else? Let's go through before we end the wide receivers, because we're running short on time, but I do want to get to our tight end rankings.
Yeah.
I want to say at least who our top guys are. But Jeff, rattle off, because I think Omar wanted us to rattle off and recap who our top 10 wide receivers were. So go off your 10 to 1 again.
Yep. 10, Mike Evans. 9, Justin Jefferson. 8, A.J. Brown. 7, Michael Thomas. 6, Julio Jones. 5, Stephon Diggs. 4, DK Metcalf. 3, Tyreek Hill. 2, DeAndre Hopkins. And 1, Devontae Adams.
Pete.
10, I had Mike Evans. 9, I had Adam Thielen. 8, I had who did I have at 8?
You didn't write this stuff down?
No, it's all on top of his head. No notes.
No notes. I take that. I got a tattoo right here. What did I have at 8?
I don't know. I don't know. I had AJ Brown at 8.
So for me, let me just give you my top 5 again. So 5 was Julio, 4 was Hill, 3 Hopkins, 2 was Diggs, and 1 was Adams. That's as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
And 6 was AJ Brown, 7 was Allen Robinson. I can't fucking remember who 8 was.
It was. So my 11 and 1, I had Keenan Allen at 11. 10, I had Michael Thomas. 9, I had Justin Jefferson. 8, AJ Brown. 7, Allen Robinson. 6, DK Metcalf. 5, Julio Jones, and that's my second tier wide receivers. My first tier wide receivers: number 4, DeAndre Hopkins. 3, Stephon Diggs. 2, Devontae Adams, and 1, Tyreek Hill. I think for the most part our lists are pretty similar. Guys are a little off here and there, maybe a couple spots or two. a couple of like a spot or two, but I think for the most part we're in agreement and we were pretty much right on. The only one I will say is Pete not having DK Metcalf in his top 10. I am writing that down, and I am remembering
It's these, man. It's for these, bro.
We
It's
are
these.
revisiting. I get it. We are revisiting that topic. I didn't remember that for a show, so we're gonna go back to that. But I want to get into the top tight ends because I want to have this debate because I think that we can all agree that the top two guys are it's between two guys. All right, it's between two guys. I think that is. Do you guys disagree with the fact that the top two tight ends are either George Kittle or Travis Kelce?
Nope.
Who do you have, Jeff? Oh, you do.
I agree.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I answered. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. Pete, you have top two is Kelce or Kittle, right? Or are you still thinking?
Oh no,
you may have Waller somewhere in there.
Exactly. I got to put Waller up there, man. I got right now because of Kittle's injuries and just the toll on his body. I'm gonna go Kelce.
Okay. Waller. All right, I'll throw in Waller. So
yeah, Waller
those three are the top three.
Those are the top three. I think we all agree with that. I agree.
Thank you, Dominic. Dominic I can't say his last name. Giovanazzo says DK not top 10. Just saying. I know we don't want to get you off on a tangent now. I'm just saying.
I know he agrees with you. So how would you rank them, Pete? 3-1, how would you rank them?
So I'm ranking right now 3-1. Gun to head is Kittle, Waller, Kelce.
Jeff, how would you rank them?
I have Kelce 1, Kittle 2, Waller 3.
We all have different orders. I have Kittle 1, Kelce 2, Waller 3. The reason now, okay, again, we're running it short on time, but I don't see how you don't have Kittle at 1. I get the injuries are a thing, but there is not a weakness in his game. And
Health is a weakness.
I get that his blocking is not glamorous, the glamorous trait that people like to talk about. It's all about receiving, in today's league. But he is such a dominant blocker that he is a better blocker than some offensive tackles in the league. Like, he absolutely dominates.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why that offense flows through Kittle. It flows through Kittle. When he's out there, his absence is felt. So to me, Kittle is just there's no weakness to his game. There is none. I can't not put him at number 1, but I know a lot of people have Kelce at 1. So I respect that. I do respect that, and I won't argue too much against that. But that's my sales pitch.
I will say this real quick to go back to a previous question that we had. I think it was John Castelloni. He said if speaking about Tyreek Hill, if Hill wasn't on KC, how good would he be? That's a very good, interesting question to ask about Kelce. Almost to the point where I'm ready. I may be switching. I may go Waller 1, Kittle 2, Kelce 3, and the reason because
that's too much.
Hear me out. It's because we talk about the blocking and things of that nature, but we also talk about look at what is around Travis Kelce. He has the best QB in the game throwing the ball. He has arguably the best wide receiver in the game on the outside, making his life very easy.
Like in the Super
underneath,
Bowl.
like in the Super Bowl. Exactly. Where Waller is Derek Carr and there's nothing fucking else. I mean, you got Josh Jacobs, but that wasn't it last year. And his numbers, it ain't no the ball is going to him. And Kittle's the most versatile. Kittle's the well-rounded. He's the guy that get his hands dirty and help block for you. And he's still the guy that can open up and be your top wide receiver, top leading receiver. I mean, but Kelce, man, if you put it like this, people, and hear me out here. If you take the three of them, don't fuck a system at all. Just look at what they do well. Look at the skill set. If they were all out there and you had to pick them up for a scrimmage in the backyard saying live football, and you knew what their skill set was, who would get picked last?
For me, who would I pick?
Because you got Waller who could run like a wide receiver. You got Kittle who can block and run.
If we're talking about this upcoming season, just one season, Waller would be last for me.
Agreed.
But if we're talking long term, talking beyond just one season, it's Kelsey that's last.
Okay.
Then you have to remember, Waller's now entering his 6th season in the league. Yeah, the last 2 years have been very productive and arguably one of the best, but the first 3 years, he couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't get on the field. He showed the lack of production. At least Kelsey and Kittle have shown they can sustain that production and playing at that high level for so long. Where Waller, I'm not ready to put him above those two yet, unless he establishes that productivity long term, like someone mentioned in the comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Jeff because, I don't get me wrong, Waller's a freaking beast as a receiver.
Yeah,
he's insane. But man, the consistent and I know a rebuttal to the consistency will be who his team and quarterback are, and so I get that, and then I totally get that. So I want to take that into account, but to me, as someone who still views, if you're going to play tight end, blocking is still a key thing, and he doesn't do that. He's just not on the. And Kelsey isn't anything special when it comes to blocking.
Exactly.
Kelsey's good, but he's not great. But Waller isn't as good, even as good as Kelsey at blocking.
No, not yet. Hold up.
So I think that Waller is just behind them. And I think Kelsey is also, whereas he's not as athletic as Waller, even though not a lot of people are, he may not be as athletic as Waller, but I think Kelsey's so damn smart too. Like he knows savvy.
And that's what comes from playing the tight end position, like those nuances that you need and that intricacy in your route running and be able to work in that such a confined space and know where to sit down in the zone. That's why I'm just looking at it from his overall player perspective as far as I would look at Waller almost like how I look at a Tyreek Hill from the wide receiver position. The bitch is just fast as shit. Mm-hmm. He's a weapon. And where Kittle, I would probably equate him to more of like a Devontae Adams or a DeAndre Hopkins. Where if I look at Kelsey, I'm looking at that guy who he just knows the position. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's also because he's older now, too. I mean, Kelsey's 29, 30, 31? He's been in the league like 7-8 years now to this point. Mm-hmm. So it's just that time looking at it from here on out. So real quick question, because I know we got 3 minutes. It was a very quick question by John Castellone as well. Who do we not have on our top 10 in wide receiver and tight end this year that we feel as if will be there next year?
I'm ready to answer that for wide receiver, and it's someone that I hate seeing twice a year. I think it's Terry McLaurin.
Okay,
Terry McLaurin is freaking stud. He's a stud, and he was in my third tier, but I think he could, now that he has a respectable receiver across from him, I think he could enter that top 10. I think McLaurin's a stud. That's for me. And then for tight end, I think we can start. I think Goddard is going to, not to be a homer, but I think Goddard's going to have a breakout year. So I think he's going to solidify himself in that top 5 tight end conversation.
Let's freaking hope.
Yes.
For you, Jeff.
Wide receiver, I'm going to go somewhat the same route. Just the fact that he got quarterback back with Dak. I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb. I say I kind of feel there's going to be high expectations and production from him, especially having Amari on the opposite side, quarterback back. If he can stay healthy and return at high level, along with Ezekiel Elliott out the backfield, I think CeeDee Lamb's going to surprise some people this year and is going to be considered a top wide receiver the following season. Tight end, I don't know. I would agree with Goddard, but I had Goddard as 10 just because I had no idea who else to put at 10. I'm not sure about tight end. I've had to do more research, but maybe like Logan Thomas or Jonnu Smith, one of those guys.
Logan Thomas, Jonnu Smith in New England now,
yeah.
Okay, for me, someone that I expect that's not in my top 10 now that could be there next year. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say DK, but you can put DK in that conversation. But I mean, listen, man, if this dude is everything that he says he's going to be, I gotta go Devontae, man.
Yes.
I gotta go Devontae.
Yes.
I got to. I hope and pray. Listen, I hope and pray Jalen proves me wrong, and I hope Devontae proves me right. You know what I mean? Because if Jalen takes that step forward, if Devontae takes that step forward and be what he is, yes. I mean, and also Benny's Nation points, Calvin Ridley. That's another very, very good one. He's definitely on the cusp already, as it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Very underrated. Probably maybe the most underrated wide receiver in the league next to Keenan Allen. But real quick before we get out of here, tight end. I don't know how none of you said this. Kyle Pitts. It's just that simple.
I had him 4.
True. I'm sorry.
So you
I already have him in my top 10.
I guess I'm looking at like top 3, top 4, top 5, top 3.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. I wasn't counting. Yeah. Kyle Pitts. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So one more comment or two more real quick before we get out of here. Benny Station did ask, what if you put Mark Andrews with any of the 3 QBs that are thrown to he said Kittle, Waller, and Kelsey? That's the thing. For me and Pete, we answered it already. We're looking at the player alone. So no matter what QB you put with Mark Andrews, to me, he's still 4th.
And he doesn't have the bad one in Baltimore. Like, you know what I mean? He has Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. So not disrespecting Andrews. He's a stud, but to me, he doesn't surpass those.
He's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah. And then the last comment I want to address and highlight was from Dominic. Chucks was on the Q&A pod. That was awesome. Yes, I was. I submitted a question, and Jason and Quentin answered it. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Why do I point that out? Because it ties into our topic next week. I am so excited. Next week.
Listen, fam, I'm going to need y'all to ride for your boy next week.
Listen, he ain't ready. Listen, on one side, you got myself. On the other side, we've got my boy Pete. Mediating, refereeing, however you want to say it. We've got Jeff over there. It's going to be our debate. It's Brian Westbrook versus LaShawn McCoy, the sequel. This time it's me.
And what is phrase for the people? Is it best offensive weapon or is it best running back in Eagles history?
It's the greatest running back in Eagles franchise history. Okay, that's a framework. Okay, so guys, if you're listening in, first of all, thank you for tuning in.
Yes,
we had really good comments on this show. We had good conversation. I love what all you had to say. Even Brandon Flowers. I'm just kidding. But thank you, all you viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Please, I'm begging you, tune in next week. Mark it on your calendars. You don't want to miss this. Our show next week. We may start at 8:30 because we're gonna have a lot to cover. This debate is gonna go on a while, so we may do an hour and a half or a 2-hour show. Who knows? It's going to be a great show. We're not only going to debate Westbrook versus McCoy, but we're going to have other topics in regards to the greatest Eagles so-and-so. We're going to talk about greatest Eagles, which is the greatest Eagles single-season team, other things like that, which is greatest single-season QB in franchise history, other things. We'll think of other topics, but it's going to be Eagles all-time greats topic episode for next week. So tune in. Westbrook versus McCoy. If you want a little bit of a preview of the stuff that I'm going to bring, definitely tune in to Inside the Birds Q&A show. They answered my question, and to my delight, they agree with your boy.
They played with him. I don't want to hear that. They played with
both of them. So
I want to hear it. Save it.
Anyway, as you can see, guys, it's already heated. It's already going to be great. We can't wait. But thank you again, fam, for tuning in. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Our sponsors, thank you to them too. Our doc, Paul Vidal of Specialized Physical Therapy LLC, and the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox, Body Check Wellness, A2D for 20% off. Manscaped, check them out as well. And remember, guys, this Saturday, we've got the special Star Wars roundtable episode of In This Very Ring. Me and Pete will be on that show, along with Jake as well. So you don't want to miss that for all you Star Wars geeks. Thank you so much again, guys, for tuning in.
Mhm.
And we will see you next week. Peace out, guys.